The rain was coming down harder now, each drop like a tiny needle against Luna's already soaked skin. She pulled her threadbare jacket tighter around 3-month-old Sophie, who mercifully slept through the storm, her tiny fist curled against Luna's chest. 5 crumpled dollars in her pocket, that was it. That was all that stood between her baby and hunger tonight. Luna's worn sneakers splashed through puddles as she hurried down the sidewalk, the gleaming Blackwood Industries tower looming ahead like a glass monument to everything she'd never have. She had exactly 17 minutes to get to the grocery store, buy formula, and make it across town to her cleaning job at the office complex. If she was late again, Mrs. Patterson would fire her, and she couldn't afford to lose another job. That's when she heard it. A sob so broken, so utterly heartbroken, that it stopped her cold in the middle of the sidewalk. A little boy sat huddled against the marble base of the Blackwood building, his expensive navy coat soaked through, designer shoes ruined by puddles. He couldn't have been more than 6, with dark hair plastered to his head and tears mixing with rainwater on his pale cheeks. Luna's heart clenched. She looked at her phone, 15 minutes now. She looked at the tower's imposing entrance, then back at the child. Keep walking, asterisk her survival instinct screamed. Asterisk you can't save everyone. You can barely save yourself, asterisk. But the boy let out another sob, and Luna's feet were moving before her brain could stop them. Hey, sweetheart, she said gently, crouching down despite the puddles soaking through her worn jeans. Sophie stirred against her chest but didn't wake. What's wrong? Where are your parents? The boy looked up with the biggest, saddest brown eyes she'd ever seen. I can't find my daddy. I was supposed to wait in his office, but I got lost, and now I don't know how to get back, and the mean lady at the desk wouldn't help me because I don't have an appointment. Luna felt her phone buzz, a text from Mrs. Patterson about the importance of punctuality. 13 minutes left. What's your name, honey? Ethan. Ethan Blackwood. Blackwood, asterisk as in the building they were sitting outside of. As in the billion-dollar corporation that owned half the city. This wasn't just any lost kid, this was the boss's son. Okay, Ethan. Let's get you inside where it's warm and find your daddy, alright? She should have been intimidated, should have been calculating how to use this to her advantage somehow. Instead, all she could think about was how small and scared he looked, how his little shoulders shook with cold and fear. Luna stood, adjusting Sophie carefully, and held out her free hand. Come on. I'll help you. Ethan's face transformed, hope breaking through the tears. He took her hand with both of his, so trusting it made her chest tight. 11 minutes. The lobby of Blackwood Industries was all marble and gold, with a reception desk that probably cost more than Luna made in a year. The woman behind it, perfectly pressed suit, perfectly styled hair, looked at Luna's dripping form with barely concealed disgust. Excuse me, you can't just. I found him outside, Luna said firmly, keeping her voice steady. He was lost and scared and soaking wet. He needs to get back to his father. The receptionist's expression shifted when she saw Ethan, professional mask sliding into place. Oh. Mr. Ethan, we've been looking everywhere for you. Mr. Blackwood is. Daddy. Ethan's grip on Luna's hand tightened. Luna looked up to see a man striding across the lobby, and her breath caught. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that made everyone else fade into background noise. Dark hair, sharp suit, and eyes the same deep brown as his son's, but where Ethan's were warm and open, his father's were ice-cold and assessing. This had to be Adrian Blackwood. The Adrian Blackwood. Ruthless CEO, alpha of alphas, the man who'd built an empire and crushed anyone who got in his way. And he was looking at her like she was a threat. Ethan. His voice was deep, controlled, but Luna caught the relief underneath. You were supposed to stay in my office. I'm sorry, Daddy. I got lost, and the elevator was scary, and Ethan's words tumbled over each other. Adrian's gaze flicked to Luna, taking in her soaked clothes, her protective hold on the baby, the way Ethan still clung to her hand. And who is this? She helped me. Ethan said before Luna could speak. I was crying and she stopped and she was really nice and she brought me back to you even though she was in a hurry. Luna felt her phone buzz again. 7 minutes. I should go, she said quietly, gently untangling her hand from Ethan's grip. I'm glad you're safe, sweetheart. Wait. Adrian's voice stopped her mid-turn. What's your name? She hesitated. Giving her name to someone like Adrian Blackwood felt dangerous, like handing over a piece of herself she might never get back. But Ethan was looking at her with such gratitude, and something in Adrian's expression had shifted from suspicion to curiosity. Luna, she said finally. Luna Maya. Thank you, Adrian said, and for a moment his voice was softer, more human. For helping him. Luna nodded, already backing toward the door. Anyone would have done the same. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. She'd seen plenty of people walk past crying children, especially children who didn't look like they belonged to them. Luna. Ethan called after her, pressing against his father's side. Will I see you again? Her heart squeezed. Take care of yourself, Ethan. She was almost to the door when Adrian spoke again. Miss Maya. She turned back, Sophie shifting in her arms. You missed something important to help him, didn't you? Adrian's eyes were sharp, calculating. A job interview? A work shift? Luna's cheeks burned. It doesn't matter. It does to me. He pulled out his wallet, and Luna's pride flared hot and defensive. I don't want your money, she said quickly. I didn't help him for a reward. Something flickered in Adrian's expression, surprise, maybe even respect. I know you didn't. That's exactly why I want to give it to you. But Luna was already pushing through the door, back into the rain. She had 3 minutes to make it to her shift, 0 chance of buying formula, and a boss who was probably already drafting her termination notice. She'd done the right thing. She knew she had. So why did it feel like she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life? 40 floors up, Adrian Blackwood stood at his office window, watching a small figure disappear into the crowds below. His son was safe in the adjoining playroom, fed and warm and chattering about the nice lady who'd saved him. Sir. His assistant, Marcus, hovered in the doorway. The quarterly reports are ready for your review. Pull the security footage from outside the building, Adrian said without turning around. From approximately 20 minutes ago. Sir. I want to see everything. How long she stood there, what she did, how she approached my son. He turned back to his desk, but his eyes kept drifting to the window. And Marcus? Find out everything you can about Luna Maya. Is there a particular reason, sir? Adrian thought about the way she'd crouched down in a puddle without hesitation, how she'd looked at Ethan with genuine concern instead of calculating what he might be worth. How she'd turned down his money without a second thought. In his world, everyone wanted something. Everyone had an angle. Everyone except, apparently, Luna Maya. Just do it, he said quietly, settling into his chair. But even as he tried to focus on quarterly projections and merger proposals, his mind kept returning to rain-soaked brown eyes and the Omega who'd shown his son more kindness in 5 minutes than most people managed in a lifetime. He told himself it was just gratitude. He told himself it was simple curiosity. He was lying on both counts. Outside, the rain continued to fall. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Luna's hands shook as she mixed the formula with tap water that had been sitting in the kettle since morning. Not ideal, but it was all she could afford to heat. Sophie fussed in her bouncer, tiny fists waving as if she knew dinner was going to be late again. I know, baby girl, Luna murmured, testing the temperature on her wrist. Mama's trying. 3 days had passed since the incident at Blackwood Industries, and Luna was still kicking herself. Mrs. Patterson had fired her, just as expected, which meant she was down to 2 jobs and even further behind on rent. But every time she thought about little Ethan's tear-streaked face, she knew she'd make the same choice again. Her phone buzzed with a text from her friend Jess. Coffee shop on 5th is hiring. Know you hate customer service but desperate times? Luna stared at the message. She did hate customer service, especially the kind where she'd have to smile and pretend everything was fine while alphas looked through her like she was furniture. But Sophie needed diapers, and the electric bill was overdue. Send me the details, she texted back. An hour later, she found herself standing outside Grind Coffee, Sophie strapped to her chest in a second-hand carrier. The manager, a tired-looking beta named Carol, barely glanced at her resume. You can start tomorrow. Morning shift, 6 to 2. Don't be late. It wasn't much, but it was something. Luna was heading home when Sophie started crying, really crying, the kind that meant she was still hungry despite finishing her bottle. Luna's heart sank. She'd used the last of the formula, and payday was still 4 days away. She was standing outside the little market on the corner, doing desperate mental math with the $3 in her wallet, when a familiar voice made her freeze. Luna? She turned, and there he was. Adrian Blackwood, looking impossibly out of place in his $1,000 suit among the day-old bread and discount groceries. But it was him, she'd recognize those dark eyes anywhere. Oh, she breathed, instinctively clutching Sophie tighter. Hi. I was hoping I'd run into you. His voice was warmer than she remembered, less intimidating than it had been in his corporate tower. I wanted to thank you again for helping Ethan. Luna glanced around the shabby neighborhood, then back at him. What are you doing here? A slight flush colored his cheeks. I was, in the area. It was such an obvious lie that Luna almost smiled. Men like Adrian Blackwood didn't just find themselves in neighborhoods like hers. But before she could call him on it, Sophie's cries grew louder, and Luna's attention snapped back to her daughter. Sorry, she's hungry, and Luna stopped herself. She wouldn't beg for sympathy, wouldn't make her problems his responsibility. But Adrian was already moving, scanning the shelves behind her with sharp efficiency. What does she need? It's fine. I can handle it. I'm sure you can. His voice was gentle but firm. That doesn't mean you have to. Before Luna could protest, he was at the register, setting down a can of formula, diapers, baby food, and a few other things Sophie would need. The total made Luna's eyes water. I can't let you. You can and you will. Adrian handed his card to the cashier, then turned back to Luna. Consider it payment for a debt. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. The intensity in his voice caught her off guard. Do you have any idea what could have happened to Ethan if you hadn't found him? If someone else had walked by? Luna shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. There was something about the way he looked at her, like he was seeing straight through to her soul. It was thrilling and terrifying at once. Anyone would have done the same, she said quietly. No, Adrian said, stepping closer. They wouldn't have. That's what makes you extraordinary. The cashier cleared her throat, and Adrian stepped back, the moment broken. But as he handed Luna the bag of supplies, their fingers brushed, and Luna felt a jolt of electricity shoot up her arm. Alpha. Her body recognized it instantly, responding despite her mind's protests. Her breath caught, and she saw his nostrils flare slightly. He'd scented her reaction. I should go, Luna said quickly, backing toward the door. Wait. Adrian followed her outside. Have dinner with me. What? Tonight. Tomorrow. Whenever you're free. He ran a hand through his dark hair, suddenly looking less like a corporate shark and more like a nervous man asking out a woman he liked. I'd like to get to know you better. Luna's omega instincts purred at the attention from such a powerful alpha. But stronger than attraction was the memory of another alpha, another time when she'd been stupid enough to trust. I don't date, she said flatly. Something flickered in Adrian's expression. Because of her father? Luna's blood turned to ice. Excuse me? Sophie's father, Adrian clarified, nodding toward the baby. I assume things didn't end well. You assume a lot. Luna's voice was sharp now, defensive. And you'd be right to stay out of it. She was walking away again, just like at his building. But this time Adrian didn't let her go. Luna, wait. His hand caught her arm, gently, carefully, but still enough to stop her. The touch sent heat racing through her body even as her mind screamed danger. Please, he said quietly. I'm not trying to pry. I'd like to see you again. Luna looked up into his face, saw something vulnerable there beneath the alpha confidence. For a moment, she wavered. When was the last time someone had looked at her like that? Like she mattered? But then Sophie whimpered, and reality crashed back. She had a baby to protect, bills to pay, a life that barely held together on the best of days. She couldn't afford complications, especially not the kind that came with dark eyes and expensive suits. I have to go, she said, pulling free of his touch. This time, he let her. Luna couldn't stop thinking about him. It was ridiculous, really. She had bigger problems than some alpha with more money than sense who'd bought her groceries out of guilt. The new job at Grind Coffee was brutal, 6 hours on her feet, dealing with demanding customers and a temperamental espresso machine, all while trying to pump milk in a supply closet that barely qualified as closet-sized. But every time the bell above the door chimed, her heart jumped, wondering if it might be him. It never was. Until Thursday. Luna was in the middle of the afternoon rush, steam wand hissing as she fought with a particularly stubborn latte, when she heard a familiar voice ordering at the counter. Large black coffee, no sugar. Her head snapped up so fast she nearly gave herself whiplash. There was Adrian, looking perfectly at home among the artists and students who usually frequented the place, despite his tailored suit standing out like a beacon. Their eyes met across the crowded space, and Adrian smiled, a slow, warm smile that made Luna's stomach flip. Fancy seeing you here, he said when she approached with his coffee. Not really, Luna replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I work here. I know. The simple admission made her hands still on the cup. You know? Adrian had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I may have asked around. That's. Luna searched for the right word. Creepy? Flattering? Terrifying? That's stalking. That's research. Adrian's smile turned self-deprecating. I'm not very good at the traditional dating approach. Who said anything about dating? I'm saying something about dating. Adrian leaned across the counter, lowering his voice so the other customers couldn't hear. Have lunch with me. I'm working. When do you get off? Luna glanced around the coffee shop, at Carol who was watching them with unconcealed interest, at the line of customers growing impatient. 2 o'clock. I'll wait. And he did. Adrian Blackwood, CEO of a billion-dollar empire, sat in a corner booth for 3 hours, nursing a single cup of coffee and working on his laptop like it was the most natural thing in the world. Luna tried to ignore him, but it was impossible. Every time she looked up, he was there, sometimes typing, sometimes reading, sometimes just watching her with those dark, intense eyes that made her feel like she was the only person in the room. When her shift finally ended, Luna found herself standing awkwardly beside his table, Sophie's carrier slung over her shoulder. You waited, she said. I said I would. Adrian closed his laptop and stood, towering over her in the small space. There's a little Italian place around the corner. Nothing fancy. Luna's first instinct was to say no, to make some excuse about getting home. But Sophie was content in her carrier, and Luna was exhausted from standing on her feet all day. The thought of someone else making decisions, even small ones like where to eat, was surprisingly appealing. Okay, she heard herself say. The restaurant was small and warm, with checkered tablecloths and the kind of family-owned atmosphere that made Luna relax despite herself. Adrian requested a corner booth, somewhere quiet where they could talk, and Luna found herself studying him as he perused the menu. He was different here, away from the corporate setting. More relaxed, more human. When the waitress came over, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes who cooed over Sophie, Adrian ordered for both of them without asking what Luna wanted. Chicken parmesan for the lady, and I'll have the veal, he told the waitress. And could you bring some crackers for the little one? She looks like she might be teething. Luna stared at him. How did you know? Know what? That I like chicken parmesan. That's Sophie's teething. Adrian shrugged, looking embarrassed again. Lucky guess? But Luna was beginning to suspect Adrian Blackwood didn't do anything by luck. Tell me about yourself, he said once the waitress had left. Where are you from? What do you do when you're not rescuing lost children or making coffee? Luna shifted uncomfortably. Small talk felt dangerous, too personal, too intimate. There's not much to tell. I doubt that. Adrian's voice was gentle but persistent. Everyone has a story. Some stories aren't worth telling. Something in her tone must have warned him off, because Adrian nodded and changed the subject. Instead, he talked about Ethan, how the boy was doing in school, his obsession with dinosaurs, the way he'd been asking about the nice lady every day since their encounter. Despite herself, Luna found herself smiling. He seems like a special kid. He is. Adrian's expression softened. His mother left when he was 2. Said she couldn't handle the pressure of being mated to an alpha like me. The admission hung between them, vulnerable and honest. Luna felt something in her chest tighten. That must have been hard, she said quietly. Harder on him than me. I never really loved her, not the way I should have. We were paired by our families, good business, strong bloodlines, all that traditional alpha bullshit. Adrian's jaw tightened. But Ethan didn't deserve to pay for our mistakes. Luna reached across the table without thinking, her hand covering his. He's lucky to have you. The moment their skin touched, the air between them charged with electricity. Luna's Omega instincts roared to life, recognizing something powerful and protective in Adrian's alpha presence. But beneath the attraction was something else, a bone-deep terror that made her snatch her hand back. Sorry, she whispered. Don't apologize. Adrian's eyes were dark, intense. Luna, whatever happened to you, whatever he did. Don't. Luna's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Just don't. They ate in relative silence after that, the easy conversation from before replaced by a tension that made Luna's skin crawl with awareness. Every time Adrian moved, every breath he took, her body responded despite her mind's protests. It was dangerous. He was dangerous. Not because he would hurt her, Luna's instincts were good at reading people, and Adrian radiated protection rather than threat. But because he made her want things she couldn't have, made her imagine a life where someone like him could want someone like her. I should get home, Luna said when the plates were cleared, even though it was barely 4 o'clock. Of course. Adrian signaled for the check, but his eyes never left her face. Can I drive you? I'll take the bus. Luna. Something in his voice made her look up. Adrian was leaning forward, his expression serious. I know you don't trust me, he said quietly. I know you have reasons to be careful around alphas. But I'm not going anywhere. Whatever this is between us, I'm not walking away from it. Luna's heart hammered against her ribs. There's nothing between us. We both know that's not true. Before Luna could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and frowned. Unknown number. Hello? Luna Maya? The voice was smooth, cultured, with an undercurrent of something that made her skin crawl. Who is this? Someone who's been looking for you for a very long time. The voice was amused now, predatory. We need to talk. I think you have the wrong number. About our daughter. The phone slipped from Luna's numb fingers, clattering onto the table. Across from her, Adrian was instantly alert, alpha instincts triggered by her distress. Luna? What is it? But Luna couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. That voice, she'd recognize it anywhere, would hear it in her nightmares for the rest of her life. Marcus Sterling. Sophie's father. The alpha who'd taken what he wanted and left Luna broken and pregnant and alone. Luna. Adrian's voice seemed to come from very far away. Talk to me. She picked up the phone with shaking hands, but the line was dead. On the screen, the number showed as blocked. Who was that? Adrian's voice was sharp now, commanding. Luna looked up at him, seeing the alpha authority in his posture, the way his presence filled the small space. For a moment, all she could see was another dominant male, another man who thought he owned the world. Another man who could destroy her. I have to go, she whispered, grabbing Sophie's carrier and stumbling toward the door. Luna, wait. But she was already running, pushing through the restaurant door and onto the busy street. Behind her, she could hear Adrian calling her name, could sense him following. She didn't stop until she reached the bus stop 3 blocks away, chest heaving as she clutched Sophie against her. The baby was crying now, picking up on her mother's distress, and Luna struggled to calm them both. A shadow fell across her, and Luna looked up to see Adrian standing there, his expensive suit disheveled from chasing her down the street. Please, he said quietly. Let me help you. You can't help me. Luna's voice was hollow, defeated. Nobody can. Try me. For a moment, Luna almost believed he meant it. Almost let herself imagine what it would be like to lean on someone else for once, to let someone strong and capable handle the problems she couldn't solve alone. But then she remembered Marcus Sterling's voice on the phone, the casual cruelty in his tone. The way he'd said, our daughter, like Sophie, was a possession to be claimed. Please just leave me alone, she whispered. This time, when the bus arrived and Luna climbed aboard, Adrian didn't follow. But as the bus pulled away from the curb, Luna could see him standing on the sidewalk, hands clenched at his sides, watching her disappear into the city traffic. In her apartment that night, Luna paced the small living room while Sophie slept fitfully in her crib. The phone call had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. How had Marcus found her? What did he want? And why now, when she was finally starting to feel like maybe, just maybe, she could build something resembling a life? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. * running won't solve anything, Luna. We both know I always get what I want, *. Luna's hands shook as she read the message. Then another came through, this one with a photo attachment. It was a picture of her leaving the coffee shop that afternoon, Sophie clearly visible in her carrier. He was watching her. Luna sank onto her second-hand couch, tears streaming down her face. She'd been so stupid to think she was safe, to think she could hide forever. Marcus Sterling was a powerful alpha with unlimited resources and a vindictive streak a mile wide. And now he knew exactly where to find her. Another text came through, * beautiful baby. She has her father's eyes, *. Luna turned off her phone and threw it across the room, watching it skitter under the kitchen table. But she knew it wouldn't matter. Marcus had found her once, he could find her again. The only question now was what he planned to do about it. Outside her window, the city hummed with life, oblivious to the fact that Luna's carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. Again. She pulled a blanket over herself on the couch, too afraid to sleep in her bedroom where she couldn't see both the front door and Sophie's crib. Dawn was still hours away, but Luna knew she wouldn't sleep. She had the terrible feeling she might never sleep peacefully again. What she didn't know was that across the city, in a penthouse office, Adrian Blackwood was making phone calls of his own. The private investigator he'd hired to research Luna's background had just delivered his report, and the name Marcus Sterling was prominently featured. Adrian's wolf paced restlessly beneath his skin as he read the details of what Sterling had done to Luna, the way he'd used his alpha status to hurt someone vulnerable and trusting. Find him, Adrian told his head of security, his voice deadly calm. Find Marcus Sterling, and find out exactly what he wants with Luna. Because if Sterling thought he could hurt Luna again, he was about to learn that she was under the protection of a far more dangerous alpha now. And Adrian Blackwood didn't share. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Adrian hadn't slept in 36 hours. The private investigator's report lay spread across his desk like pieces of a nightmare puzzle, each page revealing another layer of Marcus Sterling's cruelty. Coffee had long since stopped working, only fury was keeping him upright now. Mr. Blackwood? Marcus Chin, his head of security, knocked on the office door. You wanted to see me? Adrian didn't look up from the photographs scattered before him. Luna at 18, bright-eyed and trusting. Luna 9 months later, hollow-cheeked and broken. The transformation was devastating. Tell me you found something useful on Sterling. Marcus stepped into the office, his expression grim. More than you're going to want to hear. Sterling's been looking for her for 8 months, ever since she disappeared from Seattle. He's got private investigators on 3 different payrolls, plus his PAC's resources. Why? Adrian's voice was deadly quiet. If he abandoned her when she was pregnant, why does he care where she is now? That's where it gets complicated. Marcus placed a thick folder on the desk. Sterling's been telling people the baby is his heir. Says Luna stole his daughter and he wants custody. Adrian's hands clenched into fists. Over my dead body. There's more. Sterling's been bragging to his associates about having leverage over you through a mutual friend. He knows about your connection to Luna. The words hit Adrian like a physical blow. How is that possible? I've barely seen her 3 times. Coffee shop has security cameras. So does that Italian restaurant. Marcus's expression was apologetic. Sterling's had someone watching her. When you showed up in the footage, he put 2 and 2 together. Adrian surged to his feet, his wolf clawing at his control. The thought of Sterling watching Luna, stalking her, made him want to tear something apart with his bare hands. Get me everything, he growled. Bank records, business dealings, PAC alliances. I want Sterling's entire life dissected and laid out for me by tomorrow morning. Already on it. But Adrian. Marcus hesitated. There's something else. Something that doesn't add up. Adrian turned from the window. What? The DNA tests Sterling's been showing around to prove paternity? They're legitimate. But the dates don't match. What do you mean? Marcus pulled out a timeline he'd constructed. According to the hospital records from Luna's delivery, Sophie was born on March 15. But Sterling was in Tokyo on business from February through April last year. Immigration has the records. Adrian stared at the timeline, his mind racing. So he wasn't even in the country when Luna would have conceived. Gets better. Or worse, depending how you look at it. Marcus flipped to another page. Luna was employed by Sterling Fertility Solutions from January through October. Not as an employee, as a contractor. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. She was a surrogate. Looks that way. And if I'm reading these contracts right, the intended parents were David and Sarah Chin, no relation to me, by the way. They died in a car accident when Luna was 7 months pregnant. Adrian sank into his chair, the full scope of Sterling's manipulation becoming clear. So Sophie isn't his biological daughter, but she isn't Luna's either. Legally, she's an orphan. Which means Sterling could potentially claim guardianship if he could prove Luna is an unfit parent. Which he's been trying to do by forcing her into poverty and isolation. Adrian's voice was ice-cold with fury. That bastard has been playing a long game. Marcus nodded grimly. And now that you're in the picture, he's got even more incentive to move fast. Taking down Adrian Blackwood through his weakness? That's the kind of victory Sterling lives for. Adrian's phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but he recognized the style immediately. Asterisk, your little Omega is very pretty when she's scared. Coffee shop, corner booth. Come alone, asterisk. He has her, Adrian said, already moving toward the door. Adrian, wait. Marcus caught his arm. This could be a trap. I don't care. I do. You go in there half-cocked, you might make things worse for both of them. Adrian stopped, every instinct screaming at him to rush to Luna's aid. But Marcus was right, Sterling was too smart to leave himself vulnerable. This was a chess move, not a random act of violence. 5 minutes, Adrian said finally. Then I'm going in whether you have a plan or not. Luna sat in the corner booth of Grind Coffee, Sophie sleeping peacefully in her carrier, completely unaware that their world was about to implode. Again. Marcus Sterling sat across from them, impeccably dressed as always. Sipping an espresso like this was a pleasant social call instead of extortion. You look tired, Luna, he said, his voice carrying that same false concern that had fooled her once upon a time. Motherhood must be exhausting. What do you want, Marcus? Luna kept her voice steady through sheer willpower. Straight to the point. I always admired that about you. Marcus set down his cup with deliberate precision. I want what's mine. Sophie isn't yours. Isn't she? Marcus pulled out a legal document, sliding it across the table. According to this paternity test, she's my biological daughter. According to this custody filing, you're an unfit mother who kidnapped my child. Luna's hands shook as she scanned the papers. They looked official, legitimate, terrifying. These are fake. Are they? Prove it. Marcus leaned back, supremely confident. Good luck finding a lawyer who'll take your case against Sterling Pack Money. Good luck convincing a judge that a successful alpha businessman would lie about his own child. Why are you doing this? Luna's voice cracked. You never wanted her. You made that very clear. Things change. I've decided I want to be a father after all. Marcus's smile was cold as winter. Besides, Sophie's not the only thing I want. Here it comes, Luna thought. The real reason for this meeting. I understand you've become friendly with Adrian Blackwood, Marcus continued conversationally. How friendly, exactly? That's none of your business. Everything about you is my business now, Luna. You're the mother of my child, which makes you family. And family helps family, don't they? Luna felt sick. What do you want me to do? Marcus pulled out a small device, some kind of recording equipment. Blackwood's been trying to buy out several of my smaller businesses. I'd like to know his strategy, his timeline, his maximum offer. Simple corporate intelligence. You want me to spy on him? I want you to have conversations. Listen. Remember details. Marcus's eyes were dead, emotionless. Nothing that would hurt him personally. Just business. And if I refuse? Marcus gestured to the custody papers. Then you lose Sophie. Permanently. I have Pack lawyers, Luna. I have judges in my pocket. I have resources you can't even imagine. He leaned forward, his alpha scent deliberately intimidating. Do you really want to fight me in court? A struggling Omega with no money, no family, no support system? Luna looked down at Sophie, sleeping so peacefully, trusting her mother to keep her safe. The thought of losing her, of never seeing her again, was worse than death. How do I know you'll keep your word? She whispered. Because I'm not a monster, despite what you might think. Do this for me, and I'll tear up these papers. Sophie stays with you, I disappear from your lives, everyone wins. It was a lie. Luna knew it was a lie. Marcus Sterling didn't make deals that didn't benefit him in the long run. But what choice did she have? I need time to think. You have until tomorrow night. There's a charity gala at the Ritz. Blackwood will be there, probably wants to take you as his date if he's as smitten as my sources suggest. Marcus stood, straightening his expensive suit. We're the wire, get me what I need, and this nightmare ends for both of us. He was halfway to the door when Luna called after him. Marcus. He turned back, eyebrows raised. Why now? Why after all this time? Something flickered in his expression, rage, maybe, or wounded pride. Because Adrian Blackwood thinks he can take whatever he wants. My businesses, my territory, my... He gestured vaguely at Luna and Sophie. It's time someone taught him that actions have consequences. After he left, Luna sat in the empty coffee shop, staring at the custody papers until the words blurred together. Carol had closed early, giving Luna privacy for her meeting, but now the silence felt oppressive. Her phone buzzed. Are you all right? I saw Sterling leave. Adrian. Of course he was watching, probably had been since the moment Marcus walked in. Luna stared at the text, tears burning her eyes. How could she betray the first person in years who'd shown her genuine kindness? But how could she risk losing Sophie? I'm fine, she texted back, hating herself for the lie. Can I see you tonight? I know a place we could talk privately, Luna closed her eyes. Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to run as far and as fast as she could. But Marcus was right about one thing. She had nowhere to go, no resources to fight him. Maybe, if she was very careful, she could find a way to protect both Adrian and Sophie. Okay, she typed before she could lose her nerve. The warehouse district wasn't where Luna had expected Adrian to suggest meeting, but she understood why he'd chosen it when she saw the small, family-owned restaurant tucked between two abandoned buildings. It was the kind of place you'd never find unless you knew where to look. Adrian was waiting in a back corner booth, his usually perfect appearance disheveled. He looked like he hadn't slept any more than she had. Thank you for coming, he said as she slid into the seat across from him, Sophie's carrier between them like a tiny chaperone. I almost didn't. But you did. Adrian's eyes were warm, grateful. That means something. Luna's heart clenched. This was going to be so much harder than she thought. Adrian, there's something I need to tell you. Marcus Sterling is Sophie's father. The words hit Luna like a physical blow. She stared at Adrian, watching his expression shift from gentle to deadly serious. How did you? I had you investigated. Adrian's honesty was brutal. After Marcus called you yesterday, I needed to know what I was dealing with. Luna felt heat flood her cheeks, anger, humiliation, betrayal. You had no right. I had every right. Someone was threatening a woman I care about, and I needed to understand the situation. Adrian leaned forward, his voice intense. Luna, I know what he did to you. I know about the surrogacy, about the real parents, about the lies he's been telling. Luna's world tilted. What? Sophie isn't Marcus's daughter, and she isn't yours either. You were carrying her for David and Sarah Chen, weren't you? The careful walls Luna had built around that part of her past crumbled in an instant. Tears she'd been holding back for months finally spilled over. They were so excited, she whispered. Sarah couldn't carry to term, and they'd tried everything. When they asked me to help them, it felt like the most important thing I'd ever do. What happened to them? Car accident. Sarah was 8 months along, and they were coming to one of my appointments when Luna's voice broke. I was supposed to give birth and hand Sophie over to her real parents. Instead, I was alone in the hospital with a baby who had nowhere to go. Adrian reached across the table, covering her hand with his. So you kept her. What else could I do? The state would have put her in foster care, and Marcus was pressuring me to sign over my rights to him. He said he could give her a better life, that as the biological father he had more claim than anyone. But he's not the biological father. Luna looked up sharply. What do you mean? Adrian pulled out a folder she hadn't noticed before. David Chen was infertile. They used a donor egg and donor sperm. Marcus provided the sperm as a favor to David, who was his business partner at the time. But the clinic has records showing Marcus signed away all parental rights before the procedure. That's impossible. He has DNA tests. Forged. Marcus has been playing an elaborate con game, using Sophie as leverage to control you and now to get to me. Adrian's grip on her hand tightened. Luna, legally Sophie is your daughter. The adoption papers were filed automatically when the intended parents died and you were listed as next of kin. Luna stared at him, afraid to hope. Are you sure? I have 3 different lawyers verifying it. Marcus Sterling has no legal claim to Sophie whatsoever. For a moment, Luna felt a surge of relief so powerful it left her dizzy. Sophie was safe. Sophie was hers. Then reality crashed back in. He'll never accept that, she said quietly. Marcus doesn't lose gracefully. He'll find another way to hurt me, hurt Sophie. Not if I have anything to say about it. The quiet conviction in Adrian's voice made Luna look up. There was something dangerous in his expression, something that reminded her that for all his gentleness with her, Adrian Blackwood was still a powerful alpha used to getting his way. What are you planning to do? What I should have done years ago. Sterling's been a thorn in my side for too long, stealing clients, undercutting deals, spreading rumors about my business practices. I've been playing defense when I should have been playing offense. Adrian, no. You don't understand what kind of man he is. I understand exactly what kind of man he is. The question is whether you understand what kind of man I am. Adrian's eyes were steady on hers. I don't abandon people under my protection, Luna. And you and Sophie are under my protection now, whether you want to be or not. Luna felt her heart clench with equal parts gratitude and terror. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of, getting pulled into a war between alphas, with Sophie caught in the crossfire. What if I don't want your protection? She asked quietly. Then I'll respect that. Adrian's voice was gentle but firm. After I make sure Sterling can never hurt you again. Luna's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it and felt the blood drain from her face. Tick-tock, Luna. Gala is tomorrow night. Don't disappoint me, asterisk. Adrian noticed her reaction immediately. What is it? Luna stared at the phone, Marcus's ultimatum echoing in her head. She could tell Adrian everything, about the custody threats, about the wire, about Marcus's plan to use her against him. Adrian would handle it, would probably destroy Marcus in the process. But what if Adrian was wrong about the legal documents? What if Marcus had backups, other ways to take Sophie? What if fighting him only made things worse? Luna. Adrian's voice was patient but concerned. Talk to me. She looked up into his face, seeing the genuine care there, the quiet strength that made her want to lean on him and let someone else carry the burden for once. But Sophie made a small sound in her sleep, and Luna remembered that she was all her daughter had. She couldn't risk being wrong, couldn't gamble with Sophie's future on the word of a man she barely knew, no matter how much she was starting to care for him. It's nothing, she lied, hating herself for it. Just work stuff. Adrian studied her face for a long moment, and Luna had the uncomfortable feeling he could see right through her deception. But he didn't push. The gala tomorrow night, he said instead. Sterling mentioned it for a reason. He knows I'll be there. Luna's stomach clenched. Will you? I have to. It's for the Children's Hospital. I'm one of the primary sponsors. Adrian paused. Would you come with me? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with implications Luna wasn't ready to face. Going to the gala with Adrian would be like announcing their relationship to the entire city, making herself a target for anyone who wanted to hurt him. But it would also give her the perfect opportunity to get Marcus what he wanted and end this nightmare once and for all. Yes, she heard herself say. Adrian's smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. I'll send a car for you tomorrow evening. And Luna? Yeah? Whatever happens tomorrow night, whatever Sterling has planned, remember that you're not alone anymore. I'm not going anywhere. The sincerity in his voice made Luna's chest tight with emotion. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. But as they left the restaurant and went their separate ways, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. Tomorrow night, she would have to choose between the man she was falling for and the daughter she would die to protect. She just prayed that when the moment came, she would be strong enough to make the right choice. In his penthouse office, Adrian stared out at the city lights and tried to shake the feeling that Luna was hiding something crucial from him. Her reaction to that text had been too strong, too fearful, for it to be just work stuff. His phone rang, interrupting his brooding. "It's Marcus," his security chief's voice was grim. "We've got a problem. Sterling's been meeting with Judge Harrison, you know, the one who handles family court cases. My source says they were discussing emergency custody orders." Adrian's blood turned to ice. "When?" "This afternoon. Right after Sterling left the coffee shop." "Son of a bitch." Adrian was already reaching for his jacket. "He's going to try to take Sophie at the gala tomorrow night. Public venue, plenty of witnesses, make it look legitimate." "What do you want me to do?" "Everything," Adrian said grimly. "Call our lawyers, contact the clinic where Sophie was conceived, get me those adoption papers verified by morning." "And Marcus?" "Yeah. Put a security detail on Luna. Discreet, but effective. If Sterling makes a move before tomorrow night, I want to know about it." After hanging up, Adrian stood at his window for a long time, watching the city sleep below. Somewhere out there, Luna was probably lying awake too, torn between fear and hope, trying to find a way to protect her daughter. What she didn't understand yet was that she didn't have to face this alone anymore. Sterling had made a crucial mistake when he decided to use Luna against Adrian. He'd given Adrian a personal stake in the fight, something worth protecting at any cost. And Adrian Blackwood had never lost a fight when it truly mattered. Tomorrow night, one way or another, this would end. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. The charity gala was everything Luna had expected and more: crystal chandeliers casting rainbow prisms across marble floors, designer gowns that cost more than she made in a year, and the quiet hum of power that seemed to vibrate through every conversation. She felt like an imposter in the navy dress Adrian had sent over, though she had to admit it fit perfectly and made her feel almost elegant. Almost. "You look beautiful," Adrian murmured as he guided her through the crowd, his hand warm and steady at the small of her back. "And terrified. Are you all right?" Luna managed a smile, hyper-aware of the small recording device taped beneath her breast, right where her heart hammered against her ribs. "Just overwhelmed. This isn't exactly my usual scene." "It's not mine either, really," Adrian admitted, surprising her. "I prefer small gatherings. But the children's hospital needs funding, and these people have very deep pockets." They moved through the ballroom, Adrian introducing her to various business associates and society figures. Luna tried to pay attention, tried to remember names and details that might be useful to Marcus, but mostly she found herself mesmerized by the way Adrian commanded every room he entered. People deferred to him naturally, drawn to his quiet authority like moths to flame. She was so focused on Adrian that she almost missed the familiar voice behind her. Well. If it isn't Luna Maya." Luna turned, her blood turning to ice. Victoria Sterling, Marcus's sister and one of the most vicious gossips in the Pack community, stood behind them in a stunning red gown, her smile sharp as a blade. "Victoria," Luna managed, her voice steady despite the panic clawing at her throat. "I was so surprised to hear you were in town," Victoria continued, her eyes flicking meaningfully to Adrian. "And making such interesting connections." Adrian stepped closer to Luna, his presence protective. "Victoria. I didn't realize you knew Luna." "Oh, we go way back," Victoria's smile widened. "Don't we, dear? I was so sorry to hear about your troubles. But you always were resourceful." The words carried a wealth of implication that made Luna's cheeks burn. She could feel other guests beginning to notice their conversation, whispers starting to spread. "If you'll excuse us," Adrian said coolly, his hand sliding possessively around Luna's waist. "We were just heading to the auction." But Victoria wasn't finished. "Oh, you simply must bid on the weekend at Marcus's ski lodge. I'm sure Luna could tell you all about it, she spent so much time there, didn't you, sweetheart?" Luna felt the blood drain from her face. Victoria was referring to the months when Luna had been carrying Sophie, when Marcus had insisted she stay at his remote property, for the baby's health. It had been a prison disguised as luxury, and Victoria knew it. Victoria. Adrian's voice carried a warning now, his alpha presence suddenly filling the space around them. I think you've said enough. Victoria's eyes glittered with malicious pleasure, but she knew better than to push a dominant alpha too far in public. Of course. Enjoy the evening, you two. I'm sure it will be memorable. As she glided away, Luna felt her carefully constructed composure beginning to crack. The recording device felt like it was burning against her skin, and she could sense curious eyes following them as they moved deeper into the crowd. She's trying to rattle you, Adrian murmured in her ear. Don't let her. But Luna was already rattled. Victoria's appearance meant Marcus was making his move, using his sister to plant seeds of doubt and gossip. By tomorrow, half the city would be speculating about Luna's past and her relationship with Adrian. They found a quiet corner near the auction display, and Adrian turned to face her fully. Luna, whatever Victoria was implying. Daddy? They both turned at the small voice. Ethan stood nearby with an older woman Luna didn't recognize, his face lighting up when he saw them. Ethan? What are you doing here? Adrian's surprise was evident. Grandma brought me. She said I could see you, and Ethan stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widening as he focused on Luna. You're the nice lady. The one who helped me. Luna's heart clenched as Ethan launched himself at her, wrapping his small arms around her waist with the uninhibited affection of childhood. Over his head, she met the cold stare of the woman who'd accompanied him. So, the woman said, her voice arctic. This is your mystery woman. Mother. Adrian's tone held a warning. I'd like you to meet Luna Maya. Luna, this is my mother, Catherine Blackwood. Catherine was elegant in the way only old money could achieve, perfectly styled silver hair, understated jewelry that probably cost more than Luna's apartment, and the kind of bearing that spoke of generations of breeding and privilege. Her assessment of Luna was thorough and clearly found her wanting. How interesting, Catherine said finally. And how did you two meet? Before Adrian could answer, Ethan piped up. She saved me. I was lost and scared and Luna found me and brought me back to Daddy. She's really nice, Grandma. Catherine's expression softened slightly when she looked at her grandson, but it hardened again when her gaze returned to Luna. How fortunate. And what do you do, Miss Maya? I work at a coffee shop, Luna said quietly, lifting her chin despite the obvious disapproval in Catherine's voice. How quaint. Catherine's smile was razor-sharp. And you have a child, I understand? Luna felt Adrian tense beside her. Mother. It's all right, Luna said, though her heart was pounding. Yes, I have a 3-month-old daughter. How lovely. And the father? The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. Luna was saved from answering by a commotion near the entrance, raised voices, the sound of someone pushing through the crowd. Where is she? The voice was familiar, commanding, and made Luna's blood turn to ice. Marcus Sterling strode into the ballroom like he owned it, flanked by 2 large men Luna didn't recognize. His eyes scanned the crowd until they found her, and his smile was predatory. Luna, he called out, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. There you are. We need to talk. Adrian stepped in front of Luna, his body language shifting into something dangerous. Sterling. This is a private event. I'm here for what's mine, Marcus replied, his gaze moving to where Ethan stood wide-eyed beside his grandmother. Both of them. Both of, Adrian's voice cut off as understanding dawned. You son of a bitch. Marcus smiled. Didn't Luna tell you? Sophie isn't the only child I have an interest in. Ethan's mother and I had such a close relationship before she left town. Luna felt the world tilt around her. It was a lie, it had to be. But looking at Ethan's dark hair, his brown eyes so similar to both Adrian's and Marcus's, she felt a chill of uncertainty. You're lying, Adrian snarled, but there was something shaken in his voice. DNA doesn't lie, Marcus said calmly. And I have the tests to prove it. along with some very interesting custody papers. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Catherine Blackwood stepped forward, her face pale. This is impossible. Adrian, tell him this is impossible. But Adrian was staring at Marcus with growing horror, pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. The business trips to Seattle. The way she left so suddenly. She was carrying my child, Marcus said with vicious satisfaction. Just like Luna did. I seem to have a type, vulnerable Omegas in need of rescuing. Luna wanted to scream that it wasn't true, that she'd been strong and independent before Marcus destroyed her. But the words stuck in her throat, trapped by shame and terror. Even if any of this were true, Adrian said, his voice deadly calm, you'd have no legal claim to either child. Wouldn't I? Marcus gestured to his companions. Boys? The two men moved with military precision, one heading for Luna while the other closed in on Ethan. Luna saw the threat a split second before they acted, maternal instincts overriding everything else. Run, she screamed, pushing Ethan toward his grandmother. Catherine, get him out of here. Chaos erupted. Catherine grabbed Ethan and fled toward the nearest exit, the boy crying out for his father. Adrian launched himself at Marcus, his human facade dropping as his wolf rose to the surface. And Luna found herself grabbed by arms like steel cables, dragged toward the ballroom's side entrance. Let me go. She fought with everything she had, but her captor was too strong. Stop struggling, he growled in her ear. Mr. Sterling just wants to talk. But Luna could smell the lie on him, could sense the violence beneath his controlled exterior. This wasn't about talking. This was about taking Sophie, about using Luna as leverage against Adrian. They were almost to the door when Adrian's roar of rage shook the windows. Luna looked back to see him standing over Marcus's unconscious form, his eyes blazing with alpha fury, blood on his knuckles. Luna. The sound of her name torn from his throat like that, desperate, commanding, full of a claim she'd never heard before, did something to Luna's body that she wasn't prepared for. Heat bloomed low in her belly, her Omega instincts responding to her Alpha's call. Her Alpha. The thought should have terrified her, but instead it filled her with a fierce, protective rage. These men thought they could take her from him? Thought they could use her children as pawns? Power exploded through Luna's system like lightning, dormant Omega abilities awakening after years of trauma-induced suppression. The man holding her cried out and stumbled backward, his grip loosening just enough for Luna to break free. She spun to face him, her eyes blazing with silver light, her sense shifting to something wild and dangerous. Don't touch me. The command in her voice was absolute, Omega power enhanced by righteous fury. Both men froze, unable to move against the force of her will. Luna walked back to Adrian like a queen reclaiming her throne, the crowd parting before her. He met her halfway, catching her as her knees buckled, the power drain leaving her shaky but triumphant. Are you all right? His hands were everywhere, checking for injuries, his scent wrapping around her like a shield. I'm fine, she whispered, then looked up into his eyes. But Adrian, we need to get Sophie. If Marcus was willing to try this here, in public. Already handled. Adrian's voice was grim. I had security watching your apartment. She's safe. Relief flooded through Luna, followed immediately by another wave of heat. Adrian's closeness, his protective rage, the way he'd fought for her, it was triggering responses in her body that had been dormant for years. Adrian, she gasped, her hands fisting in his shirt. I know. His voice was rough, strained. I can smell it. Your heat. The ballroom was in chaos around them, security restraining Marcus's men, guests fleeing or gawking, sirens wailing in the distance. But all Luna could focus on was Adrian's eyes, dark with desire and something deeper. Take me home, she whispered. Luna, if I do that, Adrian's control was hanging by a thread. There's no going back. The mating bite, it's permanent. Forever. I know. Luna reached up, her fingers tracing the strong line of his jaw. I'm not afraid. Not of you. Something broke in Adrian's expression. He swept her into his arms, carrying her toward the exit as his security team closed ranks around them. Sir, Marcus Chin appeared at their side. What about Sterling? Adrian didn't slow down. Have him arrested for attempted kidnapping. And Marcus? Make sure he understands that if he comes near my mate or my son again, I'll tear his throat out. My mate, the word sent another surge of heat through Luna's system. She buried her face in Adrian's neck, breathing in his scent, feeling the last of her walls crumble. She was his. He was hers. And nothing, not Marcus Sterling, not his disapproving pack, not the whole damn world, was going to change that. Adrian's penthouse was a sanctuary of quiet luxury after the chaos of the gala, but Luna barely noticed the floor-to-ceiling windows or the expensive furnishings. All her focus was on the man whose arms she'd never wanted to leave. Sophie, she managed to ask as Adrian set her down in his living room. Safe, he assured her, his phone already in his hand. Marcus, status report on the baby? Secure, sir. Mrs. Patterson has her at the safe house. No signs of surveillance or threats. Luna blinked in surprise. Mrs. Patterson? My old boss? Adrian had the grace to look embarrassed. I may have offered her a substantial bonus to help protect you. She was happy to help once she understood the situation. You've been planning this, Luna realized. The security, the safe house, you knew this was coming. I suspected Sterling would make a move. I didn't anticipate he'd be brazen enough to try it at a public event. Adrian's expression darkened. He's more desperate than I thought. Another wave of heat crashed over Luna, making her gasp and reach for the nearest chair for support. Adrian was beside her instantly, his hands steadying her. How long has it been? He asked gently. Since your last heat? 2 years, Luna admitted, shame coloring her cheeks. The trauma, the stress, it suppressed everything. I didn't think it would come back. Your body recognizes its mate, Adrian said quietly. It's trying to complete the bond. Luna looked up into his face, seeing the careful control there, the way he was holding himself back despite the desire burning in his eyes. What if I don't want you to hold back? She whispered. Adrian's control snapped. He kissed her with desperate hunger, all the restraint of the past weeks dissolving in the face of her heat and his need. Luna melted into him, her body singing with recognition and desire. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Luna, are you sure? Once I bite you, once we complete the mating bond, there's no undoing it. You'll be bound to me, to my pack, to this life. And it won't be easy. My mother's reaction tonight, that's just the beginning. I don't care about your mother, Luna said fiercely. Or your pack. I care about you. About Ethan. About building something real and good and lasting. Even if they never accept you. Luna thought of Catherine Blackwood's cold assessment, of Victoria Sterling's poisonous whispers, of all the ways this new life could go wrong. Then she thought of Adrian's gentle strength, of Ethan's infectious laughter, of the way Adrian had fought for her tonight without hesitation. Even then, she said firmly. Adrian's smile was radiant, transforming his entire face. Then God help anyone who tries to come between us. He kissed her again, deeper this time, his hands tangling in her hair as he backed her toward his bedroom. Luna's heat spiked higher, her omega instincts demanding completion, claiming the permanent bond that would make her his forever. When Adrian's teeth found the mating spot on her neck, when he bit down with careful precision, Luna's world exploded into silver light and perfect belonging. She was his. He was hers. Nothing else mattered. Nothing else ever would. Miles away, in a penthouse suite that rivaled Adrian's for luxury, Marcus Sterling sat in his study, his face a mask of fury. The evening had been a disaster, his men arrested, his plans exposed, his carefully constructed lies beginning to unravel. But he wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Sir. His assistant, David, hovered in the doorway. "The lawyers are here." "Send them in," Marcus growled. "And get me everything we have on Luna Maya's past. Every detail, every shameful secret, every moment of weakness." "What are you planning?" Marcus smiled, the expression cold and calculating. "If I can't take what's his through force, I'll destroy it through scandal. By the time I'm finished with Adrian Blackwood and his precious Omega, they'll be ruined." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts until he found what he was looking for, a reporter who specialized in PAC politics and high society scandals. "Jennifer? It's Marcus Sterling. I have a story that's going to blow your mind." As he began to speak, detailing Luna's sordid past and her connection to Adrian, Marcus felt his first genuine smile of the evening. Adrian Blackwood thought he'd won, thought his money and power could protect him from consequences. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The real war was just beginning. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Luna woke in Adrian's arms 3 days after their mating, her body finally free from the heat that had consumed them both. The morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows felt different somehow, warmer, more golden, as if the world itself had shifted to accommodate her new reality. She was mated. Bonded. The mark on her neck still tingled with remembered pleasure, and Adrian's scent was so deeply embedded in her skin that she couldn't tell where she ended and he began. "Good morning, my Luna." Adrian's voice was rough with sleep, his arms tightening around her. "My Luna," the title still felt strange, impossible. She was a coffee shop worker from the wrong side of town, not PAC royalty. But the way Adrian said it, with such conviction and pride, made her want to believe she could grow into it. "Good morning," she whispered, turning in his arms to face him. "How long did we?" 3 days, Adrian confirmed, his dark eyes warm with satisfaction and something deeper. "Your heat was intense." Luna blushed, memories of the past 3 days flooding back in vivid detail. They'd barely left the bedroom, consumed with the need to claim and be claimed, to cement their bond until it was unbreakable. "Sophie," she said suddenly, sitting up despite Adrian's protest. "I need to see her." 3 days, Adrian, she must be terrified. "She's fine," Adrian assured her, pulling her back down beside him. "Mrs. Patterson has been caring for her, and I've had video calls with them twice daily. Sophie is happy, healthy, and completely unaware that anything's wrong." Relief flooded through Luna, followed immediately by guilt. What kind of mother abandoned her child for 3 days of passion? "Hey." Adrian's finger tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. "You didn't abandon anyone. You were in heat, Luna. It's biology, not choice." And Sophie was safe the entire time. Before Luna could respond, Adrian's phone buzzed with an urgent tone. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. "What is it?" Luna asked. "Sterling." Adrian sat up, running a hand through his dark hair. "He's calling for a formal challenge." Luna's blood turned to ice. "What kind of challenge?" "Traditional alpha duel. Winner takes all, territory, PAC standing, and..." Adrian's jaw clenched. "Rights to you and both children. That's archaic. It can't be legal. It is if both alphas agree to it. And if I refuse, Sterling will claim I'm weak, unfit to lead." Adrian was already moving, reaching for his clothes. "The PAC Council is meeting tonight to hear his formal challenge." Luna grabbed his arm, panic clawing at her throat. "Adrian, no. You can't seriously be considering this. I don't have a choice. If I refuse to fight him, he'll use PAC law to challenge my right to lead. Everything I've built, everyone under my protection, it would all be at risk. And if you fight him and lose?" Luna's voice was barely a whisper. Adrian turned to face her fully, his hands cupping her face with infinite gentleness. "I won't lose. I can't lose. Not when I have everything to fight for." The certainty in his voice should have been comforting, but Luna had seen Marcus fight before. He was vicious, unpredictable, and he fought dirty. The thought of losing Adrian now, just when she'd found him, was unbearable. When? She asked. Tomorrow night. New moon, neutral territory. Adrian's expression was grim. Luna, there's something else. The media picked up the story from the gala. Sterling's been feeding them information about your past, about Sophie's parentage. Luna's heart sank. She'd known this was coming, but she'd hoped for more time. How bad is it? Adrian pulled out his tablet, showing her the morning news headlines. Blackwood heir scandal. CEO's new mate hides sordid past. Omega for sale. The dark truth behind Adrian Blackwood's romance. Bastard children and business rivals. Inside the Sterling-Blackwood feud. Each headline felt like a physical blow. Luna sank onto the edge of the bed, her hands shaking as she scrolled through article after article detailing her time as a surrogate, her relationship with Marcus, even her struggles with poverty. They're painting me as a gold digger, she said numbly. A woman who seduced you for your money. The pack knows better, Adrian said firmly, but Luna could hear the worry in his voice. Do they? Your mother certainly doesn't think I'm good enough for you. And now this. Luna gestured helplessly at the tablet. Adrian, maybe we rushed into this. Maybe we should. Stop. Adrian's voice was sharp enough to cut. Luna, look at me. She raised her eyes to his, seeing the fierce determination there. I don't care what the media says. I don't care what anyone thinks except you, me, and our children. We're mated now, bonded in every way that matters. Nothing Sterling or anyone else does can change that. Our children, the phrase sent a warm shiver through Luna's chest. Ethan wasn't hers by blood, but she loved him as if he were. And Sophie. Sophie would have the father she deserved, the protection and love Luna had always dreamed of giving her. If they survived what was coming. The Pack Council meeting that evening was unlike anything Luna had ever experienced. The Blackwood Estate's great hall had been transformed into something that felt ancient and primal, with torches casting dancing shadows on stone walls and the assembled Pack members arranged in a circle around the central space. Luna sat beside Adrian at the head table, wearing a simple black dress that somehow managed to make her look both elegant and untouchable. The mating mark on her neck was clearly visible, a symbol of her new status that couldn't be ignored or dismissed. But she could feel the eyes on her, assessing, judging, finding her wanting. Some faces were openly hostile, others merely curious, but few showed any warmth or acceptance. Marcus Sterling entered the hall like a conquering general, flanked by his supporters and radiating alpha dominance. He'd cleaned up well since their encounter at the gala, showing no signs of the beating Adrian had given him. His eyes found Luna immediately, and his smile was cold as winter. Adrian Blackwood, Marcus's voice carried easily through the hall. I formally challenge your right to lead this pack, and your claim to the Omega Luna Maya and her offspring. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was serious business. Pack challenges hadn't been called in decades, not since Adrian's father had consolidated power through more civilized means. On what grounds? Adrian stood, his presence filling the space in a way that reminded everyone why he was the alpha. Weakness, Marcus replied smoothly. You've allowed emotion to cloud your judgment, taken a mate without considering her worthiness or the pack's needs. You've brought scandal and disgrace to the Blackwood name. The only disgrace here is you. Adrian's voice was deadly quiet. A male who abandons pregnant Omegas, who threatens children, who hides behind lawyers and lies instead of facing his enemies honorably. Honorably? Marcus laughed, the sound harsh in the echoing hall. You stole what was mine, Blackwood. The Omega, the child, they belong to me by right of first claim. Luna felt her temper flare at being discussed like property, but Adrian's hand on hers kept her seated. This was pack politics, ancient and brutal, and she had to trust him to navigate it. I accept your challenge, Adrian said finally. Tomorrow night, new moon, by traditional combat rules. The pack erupted in excited whispers. Luna felt sick, but she kept her expression neutral. She couldn't show weakness now, not when everyone was watching. Marcus's smile widened. Excellent. And just to make things interesting. He gestured to someone in the crowd, and Luna's heart nearly stopped. A man she didn't recognize stepped forward, carrying a briefcase. He was human, expensively dressed, and looked completely out of place among the gathered werewolves. "This is Thomas Chen," Marcus announced. "Brother to the late David Chen, whose child the Omega was carrying." Luna's blood turned to ice. She'd never heard of a Thomas Chen, had been told David and Sarah had no living relatives. "Mr. Chen has just learned about his niece's existence," Marcus continued, his eyes glittering with malicious triumph. "And he's very interested in claiming custody of his brother's child. Seems there was quite a substantial trust fund involved." The human, Thomas Chen, stepped forward with a legal document. "My brother David left everything to his future children. We're talking about a $50 million inheritance that this woman has been keeping from its rightful heir." Luna shot to her feet, her Omega power crackling around her like electricity. "Sophie is my daughter. I carried her, I birthed her, I raised her." "As a paid surrogate," Thomas interrupted. "You were compensated for your services. The child belongs with her blood family." "Her blood family is dead," Luna snarled, her eyes beginning to glow with silver light. "And you didn't even know she existed until Marcus told you." "Luna," Adrian's voice was calm but commanding. "Sit down." She wanted to argue, wanted to rage at the injustice of it all. But she could see the calculation in Adrian's eyes, the way he was processing this new threat. "This changes nothing," Adrian said finally, addressing the pack. "Tomorrow night, I fight Sterling for leadership of this pack. Whatever other legal matters arise can be settled afterward." But Luna could see that it changed everything. Marcus hadn't just challenged Adrian's leadership, he'd brought in outside forces that threatened to tear their new family apart before it even had a chance to form. The next evening arrived with unseasonable cold, as if the weather itself sensed the violence to come. Luna stood at the edge of the neutral ground, an abandoned warehouse district that had been used for pack challenges for generations, watching Adrian prepare for battle. He'd stripped to the waist, his muscular torso marked with ritual designs that seemed to glow in the moonless night. Other pack members formed a loose circle around the central fighting area, their faces tense with anticipation. "He's going to try to kill you," Luna said quietly, her hands resting on Adrian's shoulders. "I know." Adrian's voice was calm, but she could feel the tension in his muscles. "Marcus doesn't do anything by halves. And if something goes wrong, if he has backup plans, then you protect the children and get them out of here." Adrian turned to face her, his hands framing her face. "Promise me, Luna. Whatever happens, you keep them safe." Before Luna could promise anything, a commotion at the edge of the gathering caught their attention. Marcus had arrived, but he wasn't alone. A dozen men Luna didn't recognize flanked him, mercenaries by the look of them, not pack members. "That's against the rules," someone called out. "Traditional challenge, no outside interference." Marcus shrugged. "They're just here to observe." "Like Mr. Chen." Thomas Chen stood near the edge of the circle, his eyes fixed on Luna with predatory intensity. She realized with growing horror that this had all been planned, the challenge, the custody claim, even the media attention. Marcus had orchestrated everything to destroy her and Adrian in one devastating blow. The fight began without ceremony. One moment Adrian and Marcus were circling each other like wary animals, the next they were locked in brutal combat. Marcus fought with vicious cunning, using every dirty trick he could think of, while Adrian relied on strength and skill. But Luna's attention was divided. She could see Marcus's mercenaries shifting position, moving closer to where she stood with Ethan and Mrs. Patterson, who'd brought Sophie to witness what might be her father's victory. When the attack came, it was swift and coordinated. Half the mercenaries went after Adrian, breaking the sacred rules of single combat, while the others moved toward Luna and the children. "Run!" Luna screamed, pushing Mrs. Patterson toward the nearest exit. "Take them and run." But it was too late. Thomas Chin stepped into their path, his own hired muscle blocking their escape. "I'll take my niece now," he said calmly. Luna felt her Omega power surge like never before, silver light blazing from her eyes as protective fury consumed her. These men thought they could take her children? Thought they could hurt her family? "Mine," she snarled, the word carrying such force that several of the attackers stumbled backward. Her power exploded outward in a wave of pure protective instinct. The mercenaries closest to her fell to their knees, unable to resist the command in her voice. Even Thomas Chin staggered, his confident expression cracking. But Luna's focus was on the children. Ethan had pressed himself against her side, his small body shaking with fear, while Mrs. Patterson clutched Sophie protectively. "You will not touch them," Luna's voice carried absolute authority now, her awakened Omega power making her words law. "You will leave this place and never return." The men began to back away, compelled by forces they couldn't understand or resist. But Thomas Chin fought against her influence, his greed stronger than his fear. $50 million, he gasped, reaching toward Sophie. "She's worth $50 million. Luna's power lashed out like a whip, sending Chin flying backward into a pile of debris. He didn't get up. Meanwhile, Adrian was fighting for his life against impossible odds. Marcus and his mercenaries had abandoned all pretense of honorable combat, surrounding him like a pack of wolves. Luna looked at the children, then at her mate, torn between protecting and helping. The decision was taken from her when she saw Marcus break free from Adrian's guard, his claws extended, going for a killing blow. "Adrian!" Luna's scream carried her power across the battlefield, lending him strength at the crucial moment. Adrian caught Marcus's arm, twisted, and with a sound like breaking branches, ended the threat forever. Marcus Sterling fell and didn't rise again. The remaining mercenaries fled when they saw their employer defeated and their employer dead. The pack members who'd been frozen by shock and Luna's power slowly began to move again, their expressions awed and respectful. Luna sank to her knees, the power drain leaving her shaky but victorious. Ethan threw his arms around her neck, and Mrs. Patterson approached with Sophie, the baby somehow having slept through the entire battle. "It's over," Adrian said, limping toward them, his body marked with cuts and bruises but his eyes blazing with triumph. "It's finally over." 3 months later, Luna stood in the Blackwood Estates garden, wearing a dress of ivory silk that had belonged to Adrian's grandmother. The official mating ceremony was a far cry from their desperate claiming in the penthouse. This was about pack acceptance, about her formal recognition as Luna of the Blackwood Pack. The same people who'd judged her so harshly at the council meeting now bowed their heads as she passed. Even Catherine Blackwood had managed a grudging approval, especially after Luna's protection of Ethan had saved the pack heir. "You look beautiful," Adrian murmured as he joined her at the altar, handsome in his formal ceremonial robes. "I look terrified," Luna admitted, but she was smiling. The ceremony was both ancient and modern, blending pack traditions with contemporary touches that reflected their unique situation. Ethan stood beside them as Adrian's heir and Luna's chosen son, while Mrs. Patterson held Sophie, who gurgled happily at the crowd. When the pack priest asked if anyone objected to their union, the silence was complete and respectful. Marcus Sterling was dead, Thomas Chin had slunk back to whatever hole he'd crawled out of, and the media had moved on to fresher scandals. "By the power of pack law and the bonds of blood, I pronounce you mated before Moon and Pack," the priest intoned. "Luna Maya, you are now Luna Blackwood, mother of this pack, protector of its children." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Luna barely heard them. She was focused on Adrian's eyes, on the love and pride she saw there, on the promise of a future she'd never dared dream of. As they kissed to seal their bond, Luna felt a familiar flutter in her stomach, a sensation she'd experienced twice before but had been too afraid to acknowledge. She was pregnant. Again. With Adrian's child this time, a true heir to the Blackwood legacy. The secret made her smile widen against Adrian's lips, and she knew she'd tell him tonight, when they were alone. For now, it was enough to hold her children, all 3 of them, and know that they were finally, truly home. "I love you, Mrs. Blackwood," Adrian whispered against her ear. "I love you too," Luna whispered back, her hand moving instinctively to her still flat stomach. All of you. Adrian followed her gesture, understanding dawning in his eyes. His smile was brilliant, transformative, and when he lifted her off her feet and spun her around, the pack cheered even louder. They'd fought for this happiness, bled for it, nearly died for it. But they'd won. Love had won. And as the sun set over the Blackwood estate, casting golden light over their celebration, Luna knew that this was just the beginning of their story. There would be challenges ahead, pack politics to navigate, children to raise. But they'd face it all together, as mates, as alphas, as a family. The Omega who'd once clutched her last $5 in the rain now stood as Luna of one of the most powerful packs in the country, her children safe, her mate devoted, her future bright with infinite possibility. Sometimes fairy tales did come true. They just required a little blood, sweat, and werewolf magic to make them happen. Epilogue, 1 year later *. Luna nursed her newborn son in the same garden where she'd been crowned Luna, watching as Ethan and 9-month-old Sophie played together under Mrs. Patterson's watchful eye. The old woman had become their permanent nanny, as devoted to the Blackwood children as if they were her own grandchildren. "He has your eyes," Adrian said, settling beside them on the garden bench. "And your stubborn streak," Luna replied fondly, looking down at little Michael, who'd inherited his father's strong jaw and determined expression. "The pack council meeting went well?" Luna asked. "Better than well. The Sterling pack has officially merged with ours, what's left of it, anyway. We're now the largest pack on the West Coast." Luna smiled. Life as Luna had been everything she'd feared and nothing like she'd expected. The politics were exhausting, the responsibilities enormous, but the satisfaction of protecting and nurturing their extended family made it all worthwhile. "Any regrets?" Adrian asked quietly, the question he'd asked every day for the past year. Luna looked at her children, her mate, the life they'd built together from ashes and hope. "Only that it took us so long to find each other," she said, and meant it. Adrian's kiss tasted like forever, and Luna knew their story was far from over. It was just getting started. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.